In the early 1980s, the streets of Kingston, Jamaica didn't move unless one man allowed it. His name was Henry Junjo Lars. To the global music industry, he was a genius, the legendary producer who single-handedly birthed the raw-based, heavy era of dancehall music. He minted superstars, ruled the airwaves, and commanded a sound system so powerful they called it Volcano. But in the underworld, music was just one part of the equation. On June 14, 1999, far away from the Jamaican sun, on a rainy street in northwest London, a hail of bullets shattered the night. When the smoke cleared, the 39-year-old kingpin lay dead on the asphalt. It was a cold, calculated gangland execution. Nearly 3 decades later, his killers walk free and the files remain buried. How did the most powerful producer in reggae history end up dead in a London gutter? This is the explosive rise, criminal fall, and tragic unsolved execution of dancehall's ultimate kingpin.
Yo, one of these here dancehall, link Entourage Records. One of the talk I turn in dancehall, link Entourage Records. Your Entourage, they meet you eat from man, your ruggedness.
Bless up, and welcome back to Entourage Records. You're new here, please consider subscribing. Turn on your post notification bell so whenever I make a new upload, you can be the first to be notified. To understand the violent end of Junjo Lars, you have to understand the volatile world that created him. Born in 1960, Junjo grew up in Waterhouse, a Kingston ghetto notorious for poverty, intense political tribalism, and unrelenting gun violence. By the late 1970s, Jamaica was changing. The spiritual, politically conscious roots reggae of Bob Marley was fading from the local streets. The youth wanted something faster, rougher, and more reflective of their daily survival. They wanted dancehall. Junjo Lars wasn't just a bystander to this cultural shift. He weaponized it. With no formal musical training, he possessed an uncanny ear for what the streets wanted to hear. He took control of the mixing board and stripped reggae down to its bare, brutal essentials, a devastating bass line and a crushing drum beat. Within a few short years, his Volcano record label became an empire. He was young, fabulously wealthy, and intensely powerful. But in the Kingston music scene of the 1980s, lines were blurred. The same networks used to distribute vinyl records globally were perfectly structured for smuggling something far more lucrative. Junjo lived his life at the dangerous intersection of musical brilliant creativity and international organized crime, a balancing act that made him a millionaire and eventually a target. Junjo's formula for dominance was simple but lethal. He hired the Roots Radics, a studio backing band that played with a heavy, militant, robotic precision. He took them into Channel 1 studios and told them to slow down the classic reggae rhythms. The result was a stark, spacey sound that gave vocalists room to explode. In 1979, Junjo struck gold. He discovered a young singer with a soaring, weeping voice, Barrington Levy. Together, they unleashed tracks like Caliweed and Ayawide. Virtually overnight, a teenager from Waterhouse became the artist producer in the Caribbean. But Junjo wasn't done. he looked at the street corners and saw an albino DJ named Yellowman being ridiculed by society. In fact, he actually met Yellowman after the tasties. He approached Yellowman and said he heard about the dundos and him asked Yellowman to forward and DJ on the sound.
Well, you see, after the Tasties talent concert, Junjo approached me and like him say him and hear about this Dundos boy and him say him want to do some recording with it. Lord, well cool Elfigo back and cool my children.
He put Yellowman over the Roots Radics heavy rhythms, creating a slack, sexually explicit, hilarious style that took over the world. Volcano Records was now a hit factory, launching Cocotte, Frankie Paul, and Clint Eastwood. Junjo's sound system, Volcano High Power, was the undisputed champion of the lands, blasting thousands of watts of bass into the Kingston night. Junjo was king, flanked by money, artists, and heavy street enforcement. By 1984, the Volcano Empire was moving vast amounts of cash, but behind the scenes, international law enforcement was beginning to take a very close look at Jamaican music producers. The early 1980s marked the explosion of the transnational drug trade between the Caribbean and the United States. The same networks used to export dancehall vinyl to diaspora communities in New York and Miami were allegedly being utilized by powerful elements to move narcotics. Ghetto music production required capital, and in turn, it washed dirty capital. Junjo operated in a world where survival meant dealing with the Dons, the politically connected gang leaders of Kingston. Slowly, the line between music executive and cartel operator completely vanished. Junjo began spending more time in the United States, living a lavish lifestyle funded by cash. But the DA and the federal prosecutors were building a massive conspiracy case in the mid-1980s. The trap snapped shut. Junjo Laws was arrested in the United States, charged with serious narcotics offenses, and sentenced to a federal prison. The volcano erupted and the music stopped. Junjo spent 5 long years inside an American federal penitentiary where he sat in a cell. The world he left behind transformed completely. So, in 1985, producer King Jammies unleashed the Slang Tang Rhythm, a track made entirely on a cheap Casio digital board. Just like that, the era of live studio bands like the Roots Radics was dead. The digital reggae revolution had become where Junjo was released from prison and deported back to Jamaica in 1991. He returned to a landscape he barely recognized. He tried to revive the Volcano label. He went back into the studio with old friends like Ninja Man and Yellowman, trying to capture lightning in a bottle twice. He scored a few minor hits, but the magic was gone. The new generation of artists looked at him as a relic of the past, and the financial returns from the music were a fraction of what they used to be. Broke, frustrated, and heavily scrutinized by Jamaican police, Junjo packed his bags. He sought refuge in the massive Jamaican diaspora community in London. By the late 1990s, London's reggae scene was thriving. It was also plagued by a violent undercurrent of yardie gang warfare. Junjo settled in Harlesden, an area of northwest London known at the time as a hub for both the music and the diaspora's underworld elements. Junjo tried to keep a foot in the music business, but trouble from his past or new rivalries in the city rapidly caught up with him. It was June 14, 1999. Junjo was walking along Church Road in Harlesden. It was just before midnight. Out of the darkness, a car rolled up slowly. Windows rolled down. A gunman opened fire, unleashing a barrage of bullets directly at the legendary producer. Junjo had no time to react. He collapsed onto the sidewalk as the getaway car sped away into the London night. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but it was too late. Henry Junjo Laz was pronounced dead. He was only 39 years old. The man who shaped the voice of a generation was silenced forever. The Metropolitan Police launched a major investigation looking into suspected drug debts, turf wars, and old Kingston vendettas. But a wall of silence shielded the hitmen. In the tight-knit world of the London underground, no one talked to the police. To this day, the murder of Junjo Laz remains officially unsolved. But while his killers escaped justice, they could never erase his genius. Every time you hear a heavy dancehall bass line drop in a club, every time you hear the raw, uncompromising energy of modern Caribbean music, you are listening to the echo of the volcano, Henry Junjo Laz. Lived by the gun, died by the gun. But through the music he carved into vinyl, his flame will never be extinguished. Viewers and subscribers, tell me what you think about the great producer, the man that did so much in the success of our dancehall music. We've come to have another video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, those who have done so as yet. Also, please turn your post notification bell so whenever I make a new upload, you can be the first to be notified. Peace out, bless up, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one.